Hey y'all, welcome back to Cast Album Chat with Tyler. I am so sorry that I have taken such a long break from doing this. Life got a little bit crazy for a while, but I am super happy to be back making some videos, so I'm going to try to get some out as quickly as I possibly can. So you might notice a little bit of a costume change in between, but it's all the same day. I'm just going to spend all day talking about show tunes, which is really what I want to do anyway. So let's get to it. Okay, so summer is in full swing now, and so are social lives and work, strangely enough. So I haven't had a lot of time to make some videos, but I have had a lot of time to buy more show tunes. So after my last video, La Cage Folle, I just want to let y'all know I finally found the original Italian cast recording of La Cage Folle. I had heard it before, obviously, but this little sucker right here, and then it's got some pictures on the inside. It's really, really beautiful. I wanted to thank my friend Robert for this. He's helped me find a lot of incredible stuff in the last few months, so thank you so much. And another one, I have not done a video yet on No No Nanette, but this is the original Mexico City cast recording. And so I'm kind of listening to the show a little bit more, trying to get acquainted with it, listen to the original version from the 20s, then the revival from the 70s, so that sooner or later I can do a video on No No Nanette, and I'm loving it very much so far, so stay tuned for this one. But to the matter at hand, today we are talking about Nine, the musical. So Nine is a musical that is based on a film called 8½, or Otto e Mezzo, from Federico Fellini. And it is, the musical is from the 80s, the movie is from the 60s. What is really, really fascinating just about the title alone is that the original movie was Fellini's technically, he had already made 7.5 films up to that point. He had made, I believe it was 6 full-length features, and then he had 2 separate, what would you call them exactly? They're kind of vignettes and kind of a 3-part anthology movie. And his original movie, Variety Lights, was actually co-directed with another director. So what happens is that 8½, was his 8.5 movie. I don't know how to say that. Anyway, so that is why the original movie is called 8½. And then the musical itself takes a completely different look at the title. And it really shows how this film director's life has changed since something very important happening in his life at the age of 9. And you hear in the lyrics the age 9 come up time and time and again. There are actually even some productions that expand the theme of the number 9. We might talk about that a little bit later in smaller productions. But this is a show that I got acquainted with a very, very long time ago. I bought my first record player and I went to our local used bookshop, and they had the original Broadway cast recording of 9, and it had a really cool cover. Let's go ahead and start with this original Broadway cast recording of 9 with Raul Julia, as we like to say in America. This is kind of where it all started, and I'll just give you a little bit of history of this specific recording, and then we'll go on through every single one of them that's ever been made. 9 is a musical that is written by Maury Yeston and Arthur Kopit, and it premiered on Broadway in 1982. So we're starting with that production. Here it is again. I'll put up some other pictures over here. This is, you hear me a lot say that the original Broadway production or the recording itself is not really my go-to when it comes to listening to shows. This one kind of is. The really interesting thing about the most recent CD release is it is a 2 CD, and what they did, which is really, really fascinating, you can see here, it's one of these really great CBS Masterwork reissues. And so this is the one to get. If you can't find this one, don't spend your time with the other one. It's great, obviously, but this 2 CD has so much more material on it, and it's not just in the form of bonus tracks. What they did is they went into the studio and I can't remember, it's in the liner notes somewhere, but they recorded the show through twice, I think. So there might be some little bumps, some warts in there, but it's really, it sounds like a live performance just because there was a through line. And so all of the actors, you know, there was no break and let's get into character again, let's figure out where we left off. No, it's kind of from beginning to end, and you really get that feeling when you're listening to this show. It is one of my absolute favorite musical theater scores of all time, actually, and the roles in the show are kind of unequaled. It is a vehicle for one man and, well, originally written for one man, a bunch of women, and then some younger boys to play the younger characters. That's kind of changed over time. Different productions do different things with the cast. But in this one, it was Raul Julia heading the cast as Guido Contini, and kind of a who's who of names from Broadway at the time. You can't go wrong with this cast. I gotta read them because there are so many good names. Karen Akers, Anita Morris, Shelley Birch, Taina Elg, Liliane Montevecchi, Kathy Moss, Camille Saviola. The voices on this recording are spectacular, both from Raul Julia and all of the women in the cast. The orchestra sounds fantastic, and it really has a sense of originality about it. Obviously, this being the first recording, you get to hear how it was originally meant to sound, and it sounds glorious. And as I said, do yourself a favor, find this 2 CD set. It has, I'm trying to figure out how many tracks are on this thing, 22 altogether. And it's not the complete show, but it's a large chunk of it. So do yourself a favor and get the original Broadway cast recording of 9. 5 years later, the show premiered in Sydney, Australia, with the original Australian cast, obviously. And this recording is headed by John Diedrich. And he did a lot of work both in Australia and in the West End. He has quite a big voice, actually, and there's a huge difference in the way he sings the role to Raul Julia, and that later on we'll see that there are many different ways to interpret the role. This recording came from That's Entertainment Records, and it has not, you can see right up here, That's Entertainment Records from John Yap. It has not been reissued on J Records at all, and I don't think that that's gonna happen. So if you can find this, I think that John might actually have a few copies left on the J Records website. So go out and get one if you can, because this is becoming rarer and rarer as the days go by. This is also another solid cast. I think probably I just give the edge to the original Broadway recording because of the fact that it has more music on it, which was not originally the case. The original Broadway vinyl, then later the original CD that came out, probably had about the same amount of music as on the Australian cast recording, but now with the double CD you get a lot more music. And this is also kind of some of the names are who's who of Australian musical theater during the time. Nancy Hayes, obviously, who did Chicago before. John Diedrich, as I said before. Maria Mercedes, who later was a cover for Norma Desmond in Australia, later played Madame Giry in Love Never Dies. So you're getting these really big voices that Australian musical theater fans have grown up with, have come to love. And you get some really, some different stuff in here too. There's a little song called Contini Submits right before the big Grand Canal number, and normally is sung by Guido himself. But in this production, it's just from what I understand, an ensemble member takes it on, and it's none other than Tina Arena, who later became a pop star and has also done quite a bit of theater in her life as well. And she's a beltress, so she sings it like nobody else can sing it, and it's really, really cool to listen to. Orchestra is great on this, the rest of the cast is good. The sound, I think, maybe is a little bit tinny, maybe not as full as the Broadway recording, but do yourself a favor as well. Go over to J Records and grab a copy of this one, because this is a lot of people's go-to recording. Speaking of J Records and That's Entertainment Records, we're now going to talk about the 1992 London concert production recording. This is the highlights cover right here, and then you can see kind of the original cover right here of the 2 CD version. So it does come in a highlights version and a 2 CD version. I have the That's Entertainment Records version, but I do plan on getting the newer J Records. I think maybe somebody might correct me on this. Maybe the packaging is a little bit different, and I like to have a little bit of uniformity in my collection. So I've got a got to do that. And I'm sorry, John, if you ever watch this video, I have kind of like made a hybrid in this little slim case of the That's Entertainment Records version, which is not the way that it normally looks. I believe that the That's Entertainment Records comes in one of the fat CD cases, so I apologize. That being said, I really love this recording. Something that's different about this one, I was saying before that different directors, music directors have done their own thing with how they cast the show. And while all of the supporting roles that were played by women are still played by women in this production, the ensemble also has men in it. So you have a very, very different feel, especially the overture, which has no lyrics to it. It's just the lyric "law" repeated over by a chorus of usually women, but this time we get the version with men and women. So you get a lot of range in the types of voices, and those big chorus numbers like the overture or Grand Canal really, really sound nice. Obviously, there's a big orchestra with this recording. And you also get, as a bonus track, you get the original, what's called Overture delle Donne, which is just the women's overture. So you get all the wonderful women from this recording singing the overture on their own. This cast is led by Jonathan Pryce, who a lot of people know from other musical theater performances, textual theater performances, movies. He's only become even more famous since making this recording. I can't really tell who this is right here next to him because it's a bit hard to tell in all the posters that I've ever seen. The role was originally supposed to be played by Sarah Brightman. She would have played Claudia, the love interest who sings Unusual Way, which is kind of the big breakout song from the musical. Originally, she was going to do the concert, and for some reason that didn't happen. And so there was an actress, I believe, that is Elizabeth Sastre that did the concert. And then for this recording, it's based on the concert, but it is the exact same cast except for the actress playing Claudia. And here you get Elaine Page singing it. So in other productions, you hear a legit soprano sing it. Sometimes you get a little bit more belty. This is probably about the beltiest you're going to hear that song. It's just kind of the way the way that Elaine Page does things. And she sounds great. She really does. Just not what you're used to hearing if you've heard the other versions of the show. This cast as well, let me find their names here. As I said, led by Jonathan Pryce. Anne Crum, the late great Anne Crum, who played his wife Louisa, Anita Dobson, Meg Johnson, Liliane Montevecchi is back playing the producer Liliane Lafleur, Becky Norman as Carla, Ellen O'Grady as a wonderful Seragina, Eileen Page, I would say, probably has my favorite version of the title song. She has such a strong, legit voice, but it's still a very, very sweet sound, and you really get to hear the details in her voice in this recording. So bravo to That's Entertainment Records and J Records for getting this thing out. Also do yourself a favor, if you're picking it up, save a little bit on shipping, get the Australian recording and the London recording because they're both really invaluable. All right, from 92 to 99, from London to Berlin. And this is a pretty cool looking cover for this recording. Sadly, this is only, I believe there are 4 songs on this thing. It's just kind of a single. So we have Call from the Vatican, Unusual Way, Folie Bergère, and My Husband Makes Movies. So you get a good sampling of the women that are in the show, but you don't ever get to hear the Guido Contini sing, which is, I think, the only recording of 9 that has that phenomenon. I believe it was Alfred Pfeiffer from Phantom of the Opera he's done, and will show up in other recordings throughout this series. But the women that sing on this, Pascale Camele, Renee Knapp, and Michelle Becker, and Sylvia Wintergrün. So this was at the Theater des Westens in Berlin, and it was one of the most famous musical theaters there. And it was also directed by Helmut Baumann, who I spoke about in the video for La Cage aux Folles, who played Zaza, is also a director in his own right. I believe was the artistic director at the theater for many, many, many years. And if you can find some clips of this online, it looked like a very beautiful production. The only thing I wish is that it were a bit more complete. The recordings on this are, the performances on this are fine. They're not my favorite readings of the show, but I think it might also have to do with the fact that it was not a complete cast recording. Had I heard this cast in their totality, it might have changed my opinion a bit. But if you can find it, definitely get this one. It's a bit of a rarity, but worth finding and checking out if you see it floating around on eBay somewhere. I was debating on whether I wanted to include this next recording in this video, but it really kind of fits into what we know about Nine since the last Broadway revival and even the movie. The show returned to London in 1996 at the Donmar Warehouse and was directed by David Laveau. And sadly, that production did not have a cast recording, and I think it really should have, because I like to see how a show grows over time. And then after that, a lot of people think, well, it just went directly from London to Broadway, but there was a production, well, it was the same production as at the Donmar Warehouse that opened in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And I'm so happy that it did. This is the original Buenos Aires cast recording of Nine. And I believe that it was a recording that was sold at the theater. Sadly, as you might be able to see here, it's just a CDR, actually. So there you go. I'll put some more pictures up later. The show was actually, the production was called Nueve, which is 9 in Spanish. And it is even more pared down than any other version I've ever heard. It's really a band and not an orchestra. But the cast, this is a little bit more similar to the original Broadway cast recording in the sense that it has a lot of energy to it. This is a recording from a live performance of the show. And so it's not the full show, although I have heard different versions kind of floating around out there. This is a 1 CD version, and I think some other people have a 2 CD version, or what would normally fill up 2 CDs. I'll let you infer from there exactly how they got their hands on a recording of this show. But it's not as polished as the others. It's not remastered. You can tell that it came from a live performance. It's better than what would come from an audio from the audience, but it probably came from the soundboard, to be quite honest. This cast was headed by Juan D'Artes, and also, let me look at some of these names, pick out some of them. Elena Roger was part of the cast and later became famous playing Evita in the West End and later on Broadway. Mirta Wons, let me see who else. Where's her name? It's not popping up to me. Well, Connie Marino. Guys, I thought I was losing my mind. I couldn't find all the names on the cover of this thing, which kind of goes to show you exactly how it was produced. There's also Luz Kertz is the producer, not the producer of the show, but plays the role of the producer. Liliane, and Sandra Ballesteros is also in the cast. She plays Carla. And their names are not anywhere here on the cover. The only thing you can see is this little kind of pixelated picture on the back, and hopefully I can put some more over to the side. This one I don't think you can find anymore, to be quite honest. It was available at the theater, and I might have bought mine, looking from the sticker that probably came off the side of it. I probably bought mine from Footlight Records when it was still open. R.I.P. I very much miss it. And strangely enough, looking back at the Berlin cast recording, I got my little Footlight Records price tag on there. So I think I probably bought these around the same time. Yeah, if you can find this one, especially if you're a Spanish speaker, it's worth finding. But it's not anything you have to go out of your way to go and search for. Okay, same production, back to English now. We're talking about the Broadway revival recording of Nine, and this is also one of my favorites. This is the recording that a lot of people know, the one with Antonio Banderas in it, which, yes, he is not Italian, but he is European, so sounds pretty good anyway. This is, like I said with the other one, a little bit more pared down. You don't have the full orchestration that you would normally have, but I don't really mind the smaller band on this. It makes it seem a little bit more intimate, and I've seen pictures from the show, and it definitely has a very different take. This one is a little bit more avant-garde, I would probably say, and the original production, while not a standard production where a door is a door, a wall is a wall, the set was very, very different. It was in a spa where the show takes place, and each woman had a pedestal to sit on, and so it was like his orchestra, which is really interesting considering the overture, the women sing the whole overture. But this production obviously was very different. The original production was all black costumes until way later in the show when the women showed up in white costumes. And this one, they're actually more traditional costumes in a way. But this cast is also fantastic. Let me find a list of them here. Of course, as I said, Antonio Banderas as Guido Contini. I think shocked a lot of people here. People had heard him in the movie of Evita and probably had heard him sing before. But he acquits himself very, very well to this role. And I think does a fantastic job. Also, Mary Stuart Masterson plays his wife, Louisa. Jane Krakowski. Elena Shadow in the ensemble, who later showed up to do quite a bit of work on Broadway and tours. Mary Beth Pyle, Sandra Santiago, Linda Muggleston, who I believe was probably someone's understudy in this. She really needs to be hired a lot more than what she is. Her name pops up all the time. She has a fantastic voice. And if it just really kind of goes to show you how insanely talented just the ensemble is for this show. You also have Kathy Voitko in the cast. And then among the principals, of course, we have Chita Rivera as Liliane. And she gets a new tango bit in Folie Bergère, which I don't really like. I think live it would probably be quite nice to see Chita doing a tango with Antonio Banderas, even though neither of them is from Argentina and the play has nothing to do with Argentina. But it was probably quite nice to see them dancing together. We also have Deirdre Goodwin. Laura Benanti probably sings my favorite version of Unusual Way. Myra Lucretia Taylor is in the cast. I forgot Rona Figueroa, who has done quite a few productions of Miss Saigon, I believe, is also in the ensemble. Sarah Gettelfinger, who later took over for Jane Krakowski in the role of Carla. The list of actor and actresses in this show, this production specifically, is quite insane. There is more music on this than, for example, the Australian recording. So this is a good place to start. If you don't want to hear the whole show from top to bottom, you kind of want to get highlights, but get a very solid idea of what the show sounds like. This is probably a good place to start. But from something I didn't realize, that the little sticker I have on front here says that it's out of print for some reason. I got this at a record shop in LA one time while I was touring. It says out of print there. So I don't really know if this thing is out of print or not, but I bet you could find it somewhere on Amazon or on Discogs, and is definitely worth checking out. As I said, this is a lot of people's go-to recording for the show, so go find it now and listen to it. 2003 to 2005. Now we have 2005, the original Japanese cast recording of 9. This one is really, really cool because, as I said, I was talking about the David Laveau production that started in the West End, went to Argentina, went to Broadway, and then ended up in Japan. I believe this toured a little bit. It wasn't an extensive tour throughout Japan, but I think this is, yes, it's the new Tokyo cast, as it says up there. It's the Tokyo cast recording. So this was recorded in Tokyo, but I believe was played in a few other theaters. So this recording is also not the entire show, but like the original London concert cast, it is a 2 CD recording, so you get two CDs here, and you get a lot more, you get some pictures, you get to see what this production is like a little bit more. So it's got some really, really great liner notes in here. Some of them are in English from David Laveau, others are in Japanese, but you got some really great pictures from the production. The cast is led by Tetsuya Beisho, who played Jean Valjean in one of the many Japanese recordings of Les Mis, and I cannot remember which color. Hopefully I'll do a video later on Les Mis where we talk maybe even just specifically about Japanese recordings of the show, because I believe there are at least 6 of them, and each of them is color-coded. So you have your orange cast, and your blue cast, and your red cast, and I don't remember which one he sang in. He's wonderful on this recording. He sounds really, really great singing Guido Contini. And the women in the cast are also uniformly fantastic. I am terrible with Japanese names and also cannot read Japanese. I can't read kanji, so I can't really read from here. It's all on my computer over here, and I don't want to ignore you guys. I want to look you in the eye while I'm talking about this stuff. So hopefully I can put a little ticker down here that shows you the names of the cast and who they played. A lot of names you will have seen in other Japanese recordings. But this one, if you want to hear a little bit more in depth what the Laveau production sounded like on stage, this is your go-to. Good luck finding it. It is very, very difficult to find, as many Japanese recordings are. Back in the day when they did the carbon copy musicals, those CDs were easy to find and still are easy to find on Japanese Amazon. For example, you can find Miss Saigon, a couple of the Phantom of the Opera recordings, the earlier Japanese Les Mis recordings you could find. And so, but these are so rare. I believe they're only sold in the theater and maybe some specialty shops in Japan. I have to say thanks again to my friend Robert for trading with me for this one. This is something that I wanted for a very, very, very long amount of time, and I finally have it in my hands, which is actually why I'm doing a 9 video, because this was the last thing that I needed to grab. So thank you so much for this, Robert. As I'm sure many of you know, if you've never heard of the stage production of 9, you might have seen the movie of 9 that came out in 2009. I am a bad cast collector in the fact that I did not actually buy the CD of this. I did get it on my iTunes, and I listen to it every once in a while. I think that the orchestrations have really been jazzed up. There's a lot of really, really lush sounding stuff in there. The only thing is that the cast is not made up of singers necessarily. I think maybe 1 or 2 of them have even have some kind of stage experience. Of course, Judi Dench, but it's not the same listening experience that you would have with some of the other cast recordings. So I just pulled out my Blu-ray that I have of this. I watch it every once in a while. There's some really visually stunning stuff in the movie. But I do have to say that there's so much cut out of it. Young Guido is not a part of the equation. Some of the plot points that we have don't show up in the movie, and it's really not the same thing. I think you can appreciate the movie on its own. As I said, there are some really great performances. Some of the cinematography is wonderful. It's just not 9. Really. So if you want to watch it, I think it's probably best to actually sit down and watch the movie as opposed to listen to it. Although there are a couple of songs, Marion Cotillard's version of My Husband Makes Movies, very, very heartfelt, and there's some really, really great string work in there in the back. So check it out if you can. But you can find this probably on Netflix somewhere, so don't go out of your way for this one either. So now we're coming up on the last 2 that have come out in the last 5 years, actually. This is the original Polish cast recording of 9. This one came out in 2017, I believe. And it's from a smaller city called Poznan. You might have heard of it before. It does have quite a bit of tourism there. But the theater itself is actually one of the reasons that I would go to the city. They've kind of been knocking it out of the park lately. It's more like a repertory company, so you'll see some of the same names pop up on all of these recordings. They have Addams Family, this recording of 9, Jekyll and Hyde, December Songs. This is actually one of my favorites, and it's helped me listen a little bit more to Polish. I didn't listen to very many Polish recordings before, and I don't really know how to describe the language. A lot of people just look at it written down and think that's a lot of consonants. But for me, it's actually kind of like the French of Slavic languages. It's quite smooth at times. And the singers on this recording are, once again, uniformly fantastic. I gotta pull out, well, first of all, let me apologize to any Polish people that are watching this. My Polish is non-existent. And so I cannot pronounce these names very well, or the name of the theater for that matter. It comes from Teatr Muzyczny w Poznaniu. Sorry about that. I'll put a picture so you can read it for yourself and embarrass yourself at home if you don't speak Polish. But the cast is wonderful. It's headed by Damian Alexander, who I believe was one of the Phantoms on the Polish Phantom of the Opera recording from Warsaw. This theater is actually really, it's doing so much in Poland right now because the Teatr Muzyczny Roma in Warsaw has kind of stopped making recordings. It's been a while. I think maybe Mamma Mia or Pilots might have been one of their last recordings. But the theater in Poznan is kind of filling that void that the theater from Warsaw has not been doing, and subsequently I think a lot of the talent that used to work out in Warsaw and may still work out in Warsaw has gone to Poznan to do some productions out there. Of course we have Dagmara Rybak, I think is how her name is pronounced, as Carla. Wonderful, and you'll also hear her on Addams Family and Pippin from Poznan. Very, very powerful voice. Keep an eye on her. She's going to be doing a lot in the future. Anna Lasota, who is also on the Pippin recording. They're playing the stepmother, and here as Claudia, so she gets to sing Unusual Way and has a wonderful, very, very wonderful, sweet, soft tone to her voice. I love her version. Lucina Winkel, who we've seen in other recordings, as Liliane Lefleur. The mother, Joanna Horodko, I have to call her out. Her version of 9, the title number, is the most like a lullaby that I've ever heard, and is right up there with Eileen Page's from the London recording. I think probably just for her alone, there's a reason to get this. And then of course a lot of these other names you will see pop up in other casts from this theater. It's 2 CDs, so you get a lot of music from the show, and you also get some liner notes here. So you get a lot of pictures from the production, which looks quite beautiful. What I think is interesting, having watched some videos from this theater, it's not very big, as Poznan is not a huge city. It's not very big, but they do some pretty lavish productions in a small space. It's still a proscenium theater, but you know, not one of the. It's not like a Broadway theater or a West End theater. And so if you can get your hands on any of these, a lot of the times they'll pop up either on eBay, at Discogs. You can check out their website as well. They might be able to ship some stuff to you. And also Sound of Music shop in Essen, Germany, that has a wonderful online shop, gets these from time to time. I think that this one specifically I did order from Sound of Music shop, was not very expensive and well worth the price. So definitely check out the original Polish Poznan cast of 9. And the last recording that we have is very similar to the last one in the sense that it is from a city that is not the capital of its country. Oh man, I just said city and my phone thought I was saying Siri, and now I can't see myself. It's listening to me. Let's see if I can get back. Oh, we're back. Okay, we're all good. So anyway, so this is the original Brno, which is in the Czech Republic, cast recording of 9. And as you can see here, I'll put a few more pictures up there. It's a promo CD, and I honestly don't know what that means from this theater. They're also hitting it out of the park. Very similar to Teatr Muzyczny Roma in Warsaw. There is the Goya Music Hall in Prague in the Czech Republic that does most of the larger premieres of shows out there. They did I say a recent, for me it's recent, in the last 20 years, revival of Les Mis. They just did the first production of Phantom of the Opera in the Czech Republic. They also did Wicked, so they kind of get the big hard hitters there. But this is the Miejskie Divadlo Brno, and once again I apologize, my Czech is about as good as my Polish, so you know, we'll see how far that gets us in pronouncing these names and theaters. But this theater has their normal cast recordings, as you'll see. They had a Mary Poppins recording come out, Whistle Down the Wind recording that I would like to talk about in another video. And you can tell that there is a lot of quality and a lot of talent just in Brno, which is not a small city, but it's not, you know, it's not the capital. It's not what people think of when they think of Czech musical theater, if people actually think of Czech musical theater. I do at least once a day. I would say that most people don't. Anyway, so this is a promo CD from them. It's not one of their normal cast recordings. A lot of these promo recordings, they have the same quality as the actual cast recordings. I think they're almost always live recordings, which is really exciting to hear, you know, what it was like to be in the audience. And it's much better than it's not a soundboard recording. This is a professional remastered recording in a studio. But I believe the only difference is that these are only sold maybe at the theater and maybe not in any other shops. But this is probably one of the rarest ones, even though it's a new recording. This one came out in, I'll be right back. 2019. So this is a very recent recording. And you'll also see some names on this one that will show up in other recordings from this theater. Very much like the theater in Poznan, it is like a repertory company. So you have, for example, in Nine, the same actress that plays leading player also plays Carla in Nine, and then plays Wednesday in The Addams Family. And so you get to hear them play these completely different roles and see how versatile these actors are. And that's something that I really have liked about these two theater companies in Poznan and Brno, in this case, is getting to hear some of these actors sink their teeth into different roles. Here we have Peter Gastik, is a name you will see a lot in recordings coming out of this theater. I believe he might be the artistic director there as well. So he has a lot of sway. Luckily, he has a great voice. So it's not one of those cases where you have a lot of power in one theater and you decide to cast yourself in everything and really don't live up to your name. This guy definitely lives up to his name, has a wonderfully powerful singing voice. And luckily, I believe his wife and his children have also showed up in these productions, and they're equally as talented. So bravo for a very musical family. Also here, Luisa Ivana Vankova. Carla is Dagmar Krishova, who is a name that rings a bell from these recordings from Brno. One of my favorites, and I was hoping that she was going to be on this recording, I'm going to butcher her name, I'm very sorry, is Lenka Bartoshikova. And the reason that I wanted to hear her on this recording, if you look on their website, they have a cast list of who plays these roles, and they kind of double and triple cast these roles sometimes. And she showed up on the Brno cast recording of Mary Poppins, and she played Mrs. Andrews, and she's one of my favorites. She has so much talent, she has such a solid voice, great technique, and is a fantastic actress. So I actually kind of want to hear her sing some other roles. I'd love to hear her sing Carlotta if it ever comes out to Brno, Phantom of the Opera. I think she would be wonderful. So I was glad to hear that she was singing the role of Guido's mother. You might have heard me talk about the title number a few times in this video, and she did not disappoint. I think she's really wonderful on this recording. And you also get to hear her a little bit more in the Grand Canal sequence. Really the only thing that I can say about this recording that I do not care for is the editing. It doesn't really let a number speak for itself, and I think because they tried to fit so much music onto just one CD, I think they probably should have done two, but they put it all onto one CD, and so you get some internal cuts in numbers. So the overture is kind of spliced in places and is very jarring if you're a big fan of the show. And also towards the very end, going from Guido talking to his young self into the reprise of the Be Italian melody at the very end. There's a weird cut in there. It kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So if you can find this one, I think your best bet would probably be to go onto Discogs, and it'll show up every once in a while. Definitely get it if you can. It's a very, very good recording with some strange editing. So that is my only caution for this one. Check it out. So as far as Nine is concerned, that's all she wrote, and I wish there were more, and I hope there is more in the future. There are a couple of videos out there. I know that the French production with Jérôme Pradon was on, I believe, Italian TV, of all things, in French, and I think it would be a really, really cool production to see that is not related to the original production, the Laveau production, Theater des Westens production. That's kind of its own thing that I would love to see. And I don't know if it exists out there in its fullest form. I've seen some clips from news programs, but I haven't seen the whole thing. So if you have seen it, let me know. I would die to see that production. And also there's a recent, from the Japanese revival, there is a new I believe it's just a DVD, not even a Blu-ray, which is something I don't understand at all. It's 2021. I don't know why we're just putting out a DVD of a show. That being said, I think it looks like a solid production, but it is very, very, very expensive if you can find it in a shop. So I might have to save up for that one a little bit. Otherwise, that's kind of all there is for now. Once again, I really, really, really want to thank my friends Michal from the Czech Republic and also Robert for helping me find these recordings. We're gonna have a lot more coming up. I'm gonna try to do more varied videos. So we're gonna get some classically inflected stuff and some traditional show tunes, and then even some jukebox musicals. I'm sorry, I know you guys don't like them all the time, but we're gonna get a little variety here at Cast Album Chat with Tyler. So please don't forget to subscribe below, just hit the button. And as always, please leave a comment down at the bottom letting me know what kind of videos you would like to see, what are your favorite shows, what are your favorite recordings of these shows, and most importantly, because I'm not the end all and be all of cast recordings, as much of a nerd as I am, if I've missed something, please let me know, and I will go ahead and correct it, or I will mention it in my next video. Because yeah, I like to chat a lot about cast recordings. I'm just talking right now, but if you guys actually want to chat about it, reach out. And I would love to touch base with people that are fans. Maybe do some collaborations with people that are experts on some of these shows that I am not. So once again, thank you so much for joining me here, and we'll see you next time. Bye.